Safe to say, I think we're at a point in time now where guitar modelling is as good as it has ever been, with many products on the market such as the Helix, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex. I think guitarists are absolutely, we're sort of at a point just now where we're spoilt for choice when it comes to modeler units, you know, depending on how much power you need, depending on how much money you want to spend. But today we're going to be looking at the IK Multimedia Tone X1, and in my opinion, I think this might be one of the smallest and certainly best sounding modeler units that is on the market today. Now, if you do want to just check out some of the sounds that are available in this little unit, you can check the description below for the timeline. You can just skip to that bit there, and of course all the links for the equipment that we're using in today's demo will be down there as well if you want to check this out on our website. But to kind of summarize this just very quickly before I dive into some of its features, this little guy features some of the coolest and the best sounding amp modeling available from IK Multimedia in an incredibly small form factor that I think for value for money, this thing at this point in time certainly is coming in at about £180. This little pedal is, certainly for the things that you're actually getting within it, I think it's just absolutely killer value for money. And certainly if you're looking to either the easiest or the less faff when it comes to obviously your modeler sort of stuff, if you just want to set up and play, this is definitely an option to check out. But let's not waste any more time, let's just dive in and check out what this thing is. So the Tone X1 pedal is essentially the smaller form factor of the Tone X pedal, which IK Multimedia recently released. That being a pedal that you were able to load in a lot of their Amplitube sounds, which are some of the best modeling in the plugin options when it comes to, you know, computer amp modeling and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of people really got on well with that because they were able to load in their presets depending if it was, you know, from an artist or even just the absolute infinite amount of options that you can get from IK from their presets that you can get, or their amp models that you can get from their website. You know, Mesa Boogie packs, Marshall packs, Dumble packs. I think Joe Bonamassa has got a couple of Dumbles that have been captured from them that you're able to get and load into the Tone X. And what the Tone X1 is doing is it's all that same sort of power, but in a much smaller form factor that gives you a couple of extra options within it as well. So it's a bit of a kind of Swiss Army knife in a tiny little form factor. But as I mentioned, the whole kind of thing with this guy, I think, is that you either have it on your pedal board mixed in with some other pedals, you know, stick this at the end of your chain or wherever in your chain to act as your amplifier with, like, you know, maybe the kind of super tiny fly rig, or it's a backup for anything if you use a bigger modeler or anything like that. Or as I said, if you don't really want to dive in and go like proper crazy with modeling, but you just want like a little bit of that, you can load on an amp to this. You can actually load on several amps onto this, which I will touch on in a little bit. Have at the end of your chain, plug this directly into the PA, and then all your pedals are doing the work, and you can kind of just forget about this, and it could just be your amplifier. You don't really need to do too much with it. The first instance of sounds that you heard at the start of this video, that was me just flicking between a couple of the different options that you can get, because that's kind of the main premise of the Tone X there, is its foot switch is actually, and you may be able to see that just on the computer there as well. That's where a lot of the information is going to be coming from. But when you click that, you're changing between two different amp models And actually, just while I'm here as well talking about it, the other functionality for the Tone-X one as well is it can actually be a distortion or like a fuzz pedal or something like that if you want to, which you can change very, very easily. And I'll go into that just when I kind of touch on a little bit more of the functionality of the pedal. But essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be setting up a couple of different sort of presets. Actually, accidentally, let me just cancel that before I change something on there. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be setting up a few different banks of an A/B sound that you can swap between. What I had in the initial sound there was a 65 Fender Reverb and then a Friedman pink taco head going actually into an orange cab. And that's what this just sounds like just by itself here as well. And then just with the press there, that's me switched over to my dirty sound with the Friedman. Which initially, my first impressions with this pedal is that you're going to be that's going to be your primary sort of setup on it. And there's a lot more options that you can be doing, but mostly what I would certainly use it for is I'd have a clean channel and then I'd have a lead channel or a distortion channel depending on the kind of music that I was playing. And simply with one press you can go between the two of them there. Now, obviously with it being IK and with it being Tone-X, there's an absolute plethora that you can choose from. So, you know, you can go like 5150 if you want to. As I said, you can go with a kind of Dumble setup if you want to, with a Marshall or, you know, Soldano or anything like that. And specifically with the Tone-X one here is you have the ability to load in 20 different sounds that you can change between. So just because I've got it on the laptop at the moment, I'll show you how easy it is to actually kind of go between all of this well, basically just all the amp sounds that you have got in here. So let's just have a look and see what we've got going on here. Maybe if I want to, you know, an orange kind of distortion there. This is an OR120. Hit over right there. It's syncing, and that's me then changed my B on this option to an orange. So that's us back to the Fender there. And then this is now the orange. Now that immediately just sounds pretty cool to my ears when you plug that in, but with the pedal itself, you can actually do a little bit of tweaking just on it if you want to. So the three knobs at the top here, these act as a couple of different functions within just themselves. The most basic one you're going to be looking at is the top ones, which is your bass, your mid, and your treble, and you can adjust that just completely on the pedal itself. So it's the same for your volume as well, that knob in the middle there. So all you need to do is press both buttons there until the Alt button goes to purple. Now this will indicate that you're able to change the actual preset, and you'll notice this changes it in real time on the laptop as well. If I can kind of get it into a better position for my arm there. But you'll notice on the pedal as well that the actual color is changing along with that. And that just allows you to change basically whatever you want the first option to be. So that was on the Fender Deluxe there. Let's change it to like an AC30, which you can see just on the laptop there as well, and it's changed the color for that. If I press that once, I can then change my B option. I think that was a There's a dumble there as well. Let's go for that kind of sound. Now, the third option here, which is something that I've not really touched upon, but the Tonex one can also act as just a dedicated stomp box as well. So say, for example, you have already got an amp. This is integrated into your board. You're maybe playing, you know, a bit more, instead of modeling, you're actually just going through proper amps. But you want to have an additional drive pedal on your board. You can change the Tonex to that mode where it's just a stomp box essentially, and you've got a plethora of different distortion pedals to actually pick from. This is set to a Boss MT at the moment, but again, I can change that around a little bit. And it can be another amplifier if you want it to be as well, but I quite like the stomp box option because it just gives you obviously a lot more to work with. So there is set that to like a Klon Centaur there. And just press and hold the Alt button. Take us back. Or it's press both. Sorry. And that's us just back to our main settings just right there. So here is the AC30 that I just set up. And again, you can kind of change all the EQ on that as well. So you don't need to just have, you know, two different amps set up to there. You can have the exact same amp, but if you want like a cranked AC30 sound for your B, add your distortion, you can do that as well. Really, really cool and flexible, which is kind of one of the things I like the most about this pedal. So I'll very quickly show you just how to switch over to the stomp box mode as well. I'm not going to actually use it though, just because we're going direct for this demo here, and this is purely if you would actually just be going into an amplifier. But you'll notice I was just pressing and holding that Alt button there until it's gone blue. Now you're going to get a couple of extra options that you can change between. The first knob here for the bass and the gate. When it's on green, that's you on your amp settings, but you turn that around until it goes to red, and then that's you changed to stomp box mode, which super nice and easy. The middle one there, that's actually going to be a cab bypass as well, so if you do need to use that in any sort of way, you can. And then actually the third knob there, that is an indicator of your input gain, so I'll just even show you how that works, you know. So if you do want to have like a volume jump between the two channels, you can do if you want to, or if you just want to keep them unity themselves, you can do that as well. Which is really, really handy to get a hang with. So that's really as much as I wanted to touch on with the Tonex one, to be fair, because it is, so like I said, it's a very, very kind of plug in and leave sort of modeler. You know, if you don't really want like all the faff of going through and, you know, properly setting up these mad signal chains and everything like that, but you still want to integrate a bunch of your own pedals, or if that's just the sound that you need, it's a really, really great unit for that. So let's just double check, and actually by just using the pedal itself, just to show that you don't need to be completely reliant on a computer to get the most out of this. Well, let's just check out what some of the other sounds are sounding like here. So here's our Marshall JCM sort of setting. A bit hot on the old. So it's just a very small sample of what you can get out of the Tone X1. You know, the absolute plethora, as I mentioned, of amps you can get from IK really just mean that this is kind of, it goes as far as you really want it to be. If you just need the absolute meat and potatoes when it comes to amplifiers, then you're sorted for that. If you need that just for pedals as well, you're absolutely sorted for that. But there is a bunch of other amplifiers, especially from artists, as I mentioned, particularly one, John Cordy, who is another YouTuber as well. He has done some amazing patches that I've checked out on his page as well, which very, very worth checking out. But I think for anybody who is particularly a fan of the IK sounds, particularly if you have used Amplitube a lot with your computer, or you've already got a Tone X as well, this is just, especially for value for money, you know, we're looking at sub £200 for an amp in a box here, which not only does it, you know, is really easy to use, but it also sounds great. And I think that's the biggest thing about it, is that despite it being a tiny, tiny little pedal, you're getting an absolute amazing tone out of this. And it's really, really flexible as well, which, I mean, I just can't give it enough praise, to be fair, as soon as you kind of get going with it. And especially if you do use a bunch of other pedals and stuff like that, you're going to get on absolutely amazing with this, despite if it's your, you know, your backup rig, your main rig, or even just if you are using it just in the house, you know, as a interface, which I've actually, you know, it functions as that as soon as you start plugging it into your computer and using the Tone X stuff. So it's an absolute win-win situation despite how you look at it. But let us know what you think about the new IK Multimedia Tone X1 in the comments down below. Are you excited to check this out? Is this going to be your first step into modelling? We'd love to know. While you're down there, give us a like and a subscribe if you have liked the video as well. But till next time, I've been Kieran, and this has been a very, very quick look at the IK Multimedia Tone X1. Have a great day.